We booked a visit earlier this week with Peter King. How busy a day it is around the NFL. We're really, really appreciative of a little time with you today, Peter. Thank you very much for joining us. And here's what we do know. You were on to Jimmy remaining a Niner, kind of before anybody, even going back to last year. And secondly, the thing that we know, Peter, is that the league hasn't even begun, and the 49ers already lead the NFL in interesting. Do they not?
Yeah, even though I really thought it was best if he stayed, I didn't think there was any way he was staying. So I take no credit or anything in that. I thought...
Well, look, we just played some sound from Kyle Shanahan, and he didn't think he was staying either. So we're not going to hold it against you, but you were floating, here's why I think it makes sense, and the sense that you were talking eventually is the way Kyle started looking at this situation.
Well, one of the reasons why yesterday I wouldn't say I was floored, but I certainly was surprised, is that, when I was in camp 2 weeks ago, let's see, what day is today? Today is Tuesday. So I was in their camp 16 days ago. And on that day, that was the day that I'm talking to John Lynch up in his office, and I said, what's going on with Garoppolo? What's that whole thing like? And he sort of motions out to the field, and there is this lone figure working out, and it was him. And everything about that day said to me that he's not going to be here. I mean, when the guy is not in your offensive meetings, when he's practicing and rehabbing away from everybody in your facility, I just didn't think there was any way this would happen. But, I do think, the thing, if you were to say to me what concerns you most about this, and I don't care how nice and genial and welcoming and, hey, this is going to be great that Trey Lance is saying or he said to Kyle Shanahan or whatever, seriously, how would you feel right now if you were Trey Lance? It's easy to sit here and say, oh, my God, this is going to be great. It's going to be just like last year. How possibly deep down could he feel that way? He's got to feel, to some degree, like they don't really have faith in me, and they got to backstop me with the guy who brought us to the playoffs last year.
May I offer what I think would be the right way for Lance to look at this? Is that I'm the starter. And the best thing that any starting quarterback could have in a season that's going well, and I would be planning for the season to go well if I were Trey Lance. Of course, there's going to be growing pains, but there's going to be pressure. No matter what the year looks like at the beginning, the first time there's an interception or 3 incompletions in a row, of course, Fox's camera is going to cut to Jimmy Garoppolo, but you can't look at it that way if you are Trey Lance. You have to look at it saying, if I were to go down, my season won't be torn asunder by quarterbacks who couldn't get this through a couple of weeks if that's the way it has to happen. I think any starting quarterback worth his own salt would want somebody who can absolutely come on in and do more than just mop up garbage time, but actually maintain a successful track. And I hope that that's the way Lance looks at it. If he doesn't, he's got confidence problems that I think are always a bad sign in any quarterback.
But I mean, but hang on a minute. Listen, we're talking human nature, okay? And we're talking about a situation where, if you think about it, they handed you this job early in the offseason. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. The team is yours. It's all yours. And then after the preseason, they do something that no one thought was possible. And I don't think really they thought was going to be very possible either. They bring the starter back. And again, I understand exactly what you're saying. This is the way the guy should think. This is the way team guys should think and do think, and I get it. All I'm saying is that I would be surprised if Trey Lance doesn't have some feeling of they doubt me a little bit here.
Is in considering that, how much schmoozing would you anticipate Shanahan would have done to Lance in advance of this announcement yesterday?
A huge amount, Ray. A huge amount. He had to. He had to look him right in the eye, and he had to say all the right things about what they were doing. And who knows how specific he got? Who knows if he said to him, "I just don't feel really good about our backup situation right now. We have to get better overall at the quarterback position." I'm sure that he said a lot of things like that, but and obviously he had to say that. But I'll just make one other point about it. Okay, so I went back last night and I looked up what Kyle Shanahan told me 16 days ago. Okay, and when I said to him, you think Trey is ready to take all of this? Trey Lance is ready for this job. Is he? Because look, I realize I have totally overused this statistic, but in the 4 years since he graduated from a medium-sized high school in Minnesota, in those 4 years, he's thrown 389 passes in football games. I mean, that's not very much, and the vast majority of those were at the 1AA level or whatever it's called now. So I asked that to Shanahan, and I mean, you guys probably read it at the time, but here's what he said. Is Trey ready to take it on his shoulders? He shouldn't be. He hasn't gone through it enough yet. I believe in him. I believe in his talent. I don't think he's going to make or break our season, just like in 2019 and last year. I didn't think Jimmy was going to make or break our season. But what sucks is when you're learning how to play and you're not there yet. How do you not get worse sometimes when that pressure's on you and you need to go through the growing pains? And I just can't help but thinking that that part of this whole thing is about they know that they have a really good team, or they think they have a really good team capable of going farther than they went last year, or at least as far. And I just think it's logical to think, okay, the most important position is quarterback. Do we feel great about that position right now? And I just don't think they did. And this was about trying to get your team better while trying not to, make your starting quarterback feel that this is because they don't think he's good enough.
And conversely, how much do you think Shanahan had to talk to the team about this to make sure that the doubts of the outside world don't start seeping in? Or is that something that they just have to absorb and deal with on the fly?
I doubt he's making a very big deal of that. I wouldn't know, Ray, but I think it's more of trying to get Trey Lance right instead of trying to get the team right. And look, in a lot of ways, I don't think there can be a team in the NFL happier with how the schedule falls than the 49ers, because if you look at their first 6 games, and theoretically this is when you're trying to get Trey Lance up to speed. I mean, you've got some eminently winnable games in there. Chicago, Seattle, Carolina, Atlanta. I mean, this should not go south, even if you feel like you have to really, really protect your quarterback in the game plan. So, I mean, I don't know that we're going to have much of an answer about this until midway through the season, because I just don't think Kyle Shanahan is going to put together game plans that will have an incredible amount of pressure on the quarterback's shoulders early.
Peter King here on 95.7 The Game. At least we're not going to do entire weeks of shows about what do you think the Jimmy Garoppolo package might look like? Because, that's all we talked about. What is the Trey Lance package going to look like? Well, I don't think we really need to worry about that. I mean, the way I see it here, Peter, is they want to say it's Trey Lance's team, and I want to believe them, and it's Trey Lance's team until it's not. And it's up to him and good health to delay the not. And at some point, if it becomes not him for whatever reason, that reason won't mean as much as, well, then who's going to pick up where he left off? And to me, that Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan has watched every season but 2 be undone by inconsistent quarterback play when he had to go to a backup. And I just think that he's been so burned by that. The idea of breaking camp with his 53 best players, no matter what their stories were or what brought them to this roster, was the right thing to do for the team. Even if it wasn't the right thing to do for Trey Lance, I think it's the right thing to do for the team.
In which the more you think about this, I cannot kill the Niners for doing this. I just can't. I don't think it's dumb. Okay? I think it is the best decision for 53 players on this team and for the coaching staff. Okay? The only thing that I would, I wonder about the psyche of the kid from Marshall, Minnesota. That's all. And I think it's a fair thing to wonder about. And he's going to have to be really, really mentally tough to deal with some of the stuff he's going to have to deal with. Because you guys are exactly right. You have Kyle Shanahan basically saying, what sucks is that, when you're learning how to play and you have bad moments and it's there for all the world to see, he is going to have some tough moments this year, and he's got to be very, not only mentally tough, but he's got to be able to bury that stuff. He's got to be able to just absolutely bury it and not be concerned about it. And that's why Justin Herbert said something to me when I was at Chargers camp I thought was really interesting. So they were practicing against the Cowboys. He made a crummy throw, tipped, almost intercepted, and he was really kind of disgusted with himself. So afterwards, he threw, maybe 60 extra balls after practice. The exact same route he threw 60 times, to a couple of backup receivers. And so I asked him about it, and he goes, when you're in the middle of a game, you're in the middle of practice, you can't beat yourself up. You've got to mentally condition yourself, hey, it's on to the next play. But after practice or after the game, you can then spend time saying, what the bleepity bleep did I do? And I'm not going to do that again, and I'm going to do something about that. And that is a great way for a young quarterback to feel. And that's the way I think that Trey Lance is going to need to feel. He's going to make a bunch of mistakes during games, and he has to just be mature way beyond his years and just forget that mistake right at that moment. Forget the booing, forget, whatever is going to come down on his head at that moment. And he's just got to move on. And I think it sounds like to me that mentally he can do that. It's just he's going to have a bunch of tests with that this year.
You would know this better than I, but I was trying to rack my brain about the closest historical parallel to this. And I'm not sure that I've got one. Is there one that comes to mind with you?
No, hey, look, I've never seen a situation like Jimmy Garoppolo was this year with this team. I mean, Ray's not going to meetings. I was told he didn't even have the playbook, which is now given to players on tablets. So when has that ever happened? There was one in my lifetime covering the game. The first team I ever covered was the 1984 Bengals. And they drafted Boomer Esiason that year. And Ken Anderson was getting older. I don't know, he was 10 or 11 years in, and they wanted Boomer to take the job. And so it was kind of a seesaw between Boomer and Ken Anderson that first year. But then Boomer eventually took it over, and he even had an MVP year, and he was real good. But the thing I really remember about that, and about other things, other times with teams, when you've got two guys competing for the job, okay, like, you cannot have a turd in the quarterback room, period. You can't have that. No matter what a guy thinks, when he gets in his car at 6 o'clock at night to go home, and he curses out whoever, privately, okay? When he is in that room, he has to be go team, yay team, 100% team, okay? Now, one of the reasons why they can be comfortable having Jimmy Garoppolo is that he never is going to be an instigator or a provocateur. He's going to be the perfect guy, because no matter what happens, you're never going to see it with him. You're never going to see him blow his stack or throw a clipboard or throw the
guy's a pro. He's a pro.
He's a pro. And so that is the one other thing that I'm sure when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, I'm sure like last weekend, sat down and said, hey, listen, we may have to bring this guy back. When they started really, really thinking about that, one of the very big things they had to think is Jimmy Garoppolo is an absolute prince of a guy. And we honestly, we know that he makes us better. So let's just do it.
Peter King here on 95.7 The Game. So, we could talk Jimmy and the situation in the 49ers quarterback room till we're blue in the face. As a matter of fact, we pretty much have for the last 2 days here. Well,
and
who are we kidding? For the last freaking 2 years here, we've been talking about this. Instead of talking about fringe cuts and surprise cuts, I would like to ask you about Tom Brady, who feels like he is teeing up something going wrong this year and is almost explaining it away before it happens. At one point, Brady's age will be seen on the field. Do you think this year is that year?
Well, he's coming off a year when he threw for more yards and threw more touchdown passes than any player in football at age 44. And we are in the golden age of quarterbacks in the 103-year history of the NFL. I mean, I suppose that it's possible. But if it does happen, I'm not sure it's going to happen because Tom Brady is 45 years old. I think it's going to happen because his center is a guy we never heard of. His left guard is a guy we never heard of. His right tackle, who's the best right tackle in football, Tristan Wirfs, has an oblique injury that he's probably going to try to play through, but who knows what that is going to be like. They've replaced the right tackle with Shaq Mason, who, when Bill Belichick gives up on a guy, I don't know if that's such a great sign either. But anyway, having said all that, my whole point about Brady is not that, well, he might look his age this year. He might look his age this year because he's getting the crap beat out of him. That is kind of how I look at it. But I also look at it in one other way. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with Brady. I truly don't know what's going on with Brady. I don't know who does. And, when he says, hey, I've got some personal things I need to take care of, I think that he has enough credibility currency in the bank so that we ought to just say, hey, Tom, take as much time as you want, take care of it. Hopefully everything is going okay with you and your family and your personal life, whatever it is. But to me, in a football sense, I'm not sure how much he is going to struggle either throwing the ball or looking like an old man. But I do think he's going to get hit, harassed a lot more this year than he has in recent years.
Taking the Garoppolo soap opera off the table, what is the thing that happened during training camp across the league that surprised you the most in ways that will impact the regular season?
The Pittsburgh quarterback situation. Mike Tomlin basically told his quarterbacks, Mitchell Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and that's really kind of the most important things, the two most important guys. Yeah, he said, I'm going to go by what I see. It's up to you guys. We're going to know who's going to win. And I think everybody thinks, and I certainly thought leaving there based on the people I talked to, that Kenny Pickett was going to have to beat out Trubisky by a lot to win this job. And he played great. But Trubisky completed 71%, didn't in the preseason, didn't throw a pick, was extremely good in a new offense. I would assume he's going to start the season. And Kenny Pickett was a revelation. So I left Steeler camp when I was there really worried about how the quarterback was going to be and how the quarterback situation would play out. And who knows? I don't want to draw too much about the preseason, but I think if you look at the Steelers, you'd be a lot less worried. That would be 1A or 1B, whatever it would be Kansas City without Tyreek Hill. I thought a little bit of the same thing going into there, that, my God, they're really going to miss Tyreek Hill. But I saw reborn Juju Smith-Schuster, who's, I think, going to be playing all over the field, not just in the slot anymore. They've got a rookie from Western Michigan named Sky Moore, who could sort of reprise the Deebo Samuel role last year, playing both wide and in the backfield. He's a really interesting prospect. I think the Chiefs are going to be just fine. I was a lot worried about them after they traded Tyreek Hill, but both Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes look at this as you think we're going to go down a little bit? Okay, check back with us on November 15th. We'll show you. And I think both those teams are going to make chicken salad out of the chicken feathers that most people looked at them as having to deal with in the offseason.
Peter, we got to run. I'll let you know that my favorite part of all training camp was quarterbacks making sure that you saw their hand when they went for that post-interview on-field handshake. Everyone raised their game after Josh Allen got stood up by you. So this league is watching tape already. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that was a funny deal. Well,
it was.
I'll always have that most embarrassing piece of tape in the Peter King lore. But anyway, good for Josh Allen. He was a good sport.
Thank you so much for joining us. You're a good sport as always. We're looking forward to this year getting underway, Peter. Thank you.
All the best, guys. Thank you.
Peter King here on 95.7 The Game.